Before you come to China, there are some things nobody really wants you about. You might think you know what China is like, but your first few days here could completely surprise you. So today we are counting down the top 5 culture shocks that many travelers experience when they first visit China. And trust me, number 1 is something you probably won't expect. Number 5 might happen within your first few hours in China. You just landed after a long flight, you leave the airport, start exploring China, and suddenly you need to find a bathroom. You open the door, take one look inside, and your brain freezes. Because inside you see a type of toilet you probably never imagined using during your trip to China. This is the moment many first-time visitors discover the squat toilet. Something completely normal in China, but a totally new experience for many travelers. Now, if this is your first time seeing one, don't panic. It looks much more complicated than it actually is. The easiest way is to place your feet on the 2 marked areas, squat down naturally, and keep your balance. The main thing is to make sure your clothes stay away from the floor. And here is a small tip that many travelers don't think about. Avoid wearing very loose pants when you know you will be using public bathrooms in China. Wide pant legs can easily touch the floor, so if you are already wearing them, just pull them on before you go in. Another thing you should prepare for is toilet paper. In some public bathrooms, especially older ones, you may need to bring your own tissues because paper is not always inside the store. My advice is simple, just to keep a small pack of tissues in your bag. It takes almost no space, but you will be very happy you have them when you need them. And if you are not comfortable using a squat toilet, don't worry. In big cities, you can usually find Western-style toilets in places like airports, international hotels, luxury restaurants, and large shopping malls. Once you know these small tricks, your first bathroom experience in China becomes much easier. But this is only the beginning. The next surprise comes when you realize how many people are trying to visit the exact same places you want to see. Imagine flying thousands of miles to China, finally arriving at one of the places you have always wanted to see, and then you find out you can't get in, not because the place is closed, because you didn't book a ticket. Many first-time visitors are surprised to learn that popular attractions in China often require advanced reservations and accurate planning. The Forbidden City in Beijing is a perfect example. To visit the Forbidden City, you really need to book your tickets 7 days in advance, and tickets are released at 8 p.m. Beijing time. During busy seasons, they can disappear within minutes. Sometimes you need to be ready and complete your booking almost immediately after tickets become available. For many foreigners, this feels almost like trying to buy tickets for a major concert. And this is not only about tourist attractions. Popular concerts, exhibitions, and even some restaurants can require planning ahead because so many people want the exactly same experience. China has more than 1.4 billion people, so when millions of people want the same experience, planning ahead becomes part of everyday life. So before visiting a famous attraction in China, always check, do I need a reservation? When do the tickets become available? How early should I book? If you are not sure where to get information, just leave a comment below this video. But the next surprise is actually something many people worry about before they even come to China. Is it safe to walk outside at night? Before visiting China, this is one of the biggest questions I hear from many travelers, especially solo travelers and people visiting for the first time. And after living in China for so many years, my own experience is that many areas of the city feel very comfortable even late at night. I actually experience this myself almost every night. Around 11:30 p.m., I take my dog outside for a walk. I have a big golden retriever and I enjoy walking when the streets are quieter. I have been doing this for almost 7 years and I have never experienced a dangerous situation during these walks. Never. Of course, you should always use some common sense when traveling anywhere. But one thing that surprises many visitors is that Chinese cities often do not suddenly become empty after sunset. In downtown areas, restaurants are still open, people are eating late-night food, convenience stores are busy, and friends are spending time together outside. Public transportation also makes exploring at night easier. In Shanghai, the subway usually runs until around midnight, and during holidays and special events, some lines may operate later. Nighttime in many Chinese cities still feel like normal life. The next culture shock is something you might notice before you even finish your first meal in China. You sit down at a restaurant, look at the table, and instead of a traditional menu, you see a QR code waiting for you. For many foreigners, this is the moment they realize China does not just use technology. Technology is built into everyday life. Many people know China uses mobile payment, but the surprising part is how deeply QR codes are connected to daily life. You see them at restaurants, breakfast shops, fruit stands, convenience stores, and even small street vendors. A QR code can help you pay, order food, rent a bike, or access services that you might never expect. For example, with WeChat, you simply open the app, tap the plus button, choose scan, and scan the code. That's it. I actually made a full video explaining how foreigners can use WeChat mini programs and digital services in China. If you are preparing for your trip, I'll leave that video linked here. After seeing all these differences, you might still have one big question. What happens if I really need help in China and I don't speak any Mandarin? And that's where many travelers discover the biggest surprise: the people they meet. Before coming to China, one of the biggest worries many foreigners have is a language barrier. They wonder, what if I can't order food? What if I get lost? What if something goes wrong? And honestly, these concerns are completely understandable. Chinese is a very different language system, and outside major tourist areas, English may not always be commonly spoken. But something many visitors discover is that the biggest surprise is not whether everyone speaks your language, it is what happens when you need help. I often see foreigners share their experiences in my comment section, and one story really stayed with me. He told me that during his trip in China, he accidentally entered the wrong destination in Didi. He didn't realize it until the driver had already taken him to the wrong location. It was already late at night. He was somewhere unfamiliar and he was worried. He thought, I made a mistake. I probably need to pay for the actual distance. He was already prepared to pay more, but the driver reacted completely differently. Instead of getting frustrated or blaming him, the driver helped him figure out what happened. He helped contact the hotel, drove him to the correct location, and didn't ask for any extra money. For that traveler, it was just one taxi ride, but I think what he really remembered was not a taxi ride. It was the feeling of being lost in a foreign country and then realizing that someone was willing to help. And that's the kind of moment people remember long after their trip is over. Because when you travel somewhere unfamiliar, the biggest fear is often not getting lost. It's wondering what happens if something goes wrong, and sometimes the answer is much better than you expected. Of course, preparing before your trip still makes everything easier. Download a translation app, save important address in Chinese and English, learn a few simple phrases, but don't let the language barrier stop you from visiting China, because many travelers come here worried that they won't be able to communicate. Then they leave remembering the people who tried anyway. I hope this video helps you feel a little more prepared for your trip to China, because sometimes the things you remember most are not just the famous places, they are the small moments you experience along the way. I'm Vicky, and I hope to be your first friend in China. On this channel, I share travel tips, everyday life, and things I wish every first-time visitors knew before coming here. If you are planning a trip to China, or you are simply curious about what life is here really like, subscribe and join me. I'll see you in the next one.